Okay, here we are. Here we are for the roundup. And if this works, we're going to be having a live video, or at least recorded video of us talking to each other.
Yeah, that's right. Well, hey, everything has to start with baby steps, and that's where we are right now.
Yeah,
And we got time,
yeah,
so this
yeah.
is it.
This is it. And we're a day late too. It was a busy weekend. I had to go fishing yesterday. I needed to get out and do something with my son. So we went fishing and we caught two tiny little rainbow trout. That was it.
Oh, you did? Oh, cool.
Yeah, I mean, but tiny.
Oh, okay. Like minnows. Yeah,
Yeah, pretty much. And none of the hooks we had were really appropriate for them. So we found something really small because we could see these schools of little rainbows swimming, and yeah, we got them. Survival situation, I would have eaten it, but grow on to be
Since
a great rainbow, young little
this
fish.
is since this is about whatever we wanted to make it about. I read that Birds Hill Park stocks their pond with rainbow trout as well. So
It's all over actually. There's lots
yeah,
of places that do. Yeah, no one who watches this knows where Birdsville Park is.
yeah. Who knew, right?
Yeah,
Like it's so close to town, right?
yeah,
So
well,
yeah,
exactly.
maybe go give it a try. But
So here we are. It's another week gone by, and there's obviously more news and related to the economy. We don't have to talk about why it's the economy, but here we are. Hey, good news is I don't look like I don't look like Christopher Lloyd anymore. I got a haircut today. I was out the door so fast and my hairstylist came in. So good news, the economy is slowly opening up and I got a haircut. I feel like I won the lottery.
how did you get a spot? You must have booked it weeks ago.
No, well, as soon as I heard the notice, I was in a meeting and someone said, "Oh, they're opening up this." I texted my stylist and I was like, "I want in first."
That's yeah. I'm just assuming I'm not going to get in for 2 more weeks.
Oh
But
yeah.
yeah, good on you.
I
You're
practically
organized.
wanted to hug her. I was like, "Oh, so good to see you."
Social distancing
Yeah.
faux pas number
Yeah,
one, the
number
hug.
one. Yeah, the hug your hairstylist for what little I have left, but
Yeah,
there you go.
yeah. Oh, geez.
But here we are. Economy's opening up. Things are starting to happen, and we're also seeing some layoffs.
Well, we're all being positive, and then all of a sudden the insurance industry goes completely the opposite direction and lays off people. We're talking salary cuts. I mean, it's for the most part a recession-proof industry, but
Until,
obviously not pandemic-proof.
yeah,
Dun, dun,
exactly.
dun.
Da, da, da. There's we didn't say the name. We just called it the pandemic. That's part of the problem, right? Is when you're in a startup and a growth phase, nothing is. You're not resilient to everything, even though you may have capital, because it changes your burn rate. Because now you're burnt. Well, it doesn't change your rate. You're still burning that amount of money, but your revenue model has been completely turned upside down. So you have to cut costs somewhere.
Yeah, well, and hey, in fairness to those individuals, and we're looking at the list that was published online, is I guess knowledge for everyone, but yeah, they were all trying to set the stage for something new. Bold
Yeah,
Penguin, Metro Mile. I mean, we all talk about Metro Mile.
yeah,
300 employees. They lobbed off 100 of them. Ooh,
yeah. Third of the workforce. But I mean, who's
big.
driving right now?
Yeah, yeah. It's
I
a
filled up
well,
my car for the first time in like 3 weeks today to go see my hairstylist.
yeah, exactly.
So
You
not going to
didn't
run
want to
out of
run
gas
out.
on
Yeah,
that trip.
exactly.
But
But
that's the thing. Like, I think what this is showing is that somewhere in our economic modeling and such, and how we look at business, how we look at opportunity, and how we look at things, we have to start saying to ourselves, we need to be better risk managers about our own businesses as much as we are to everyone else's business when you're in the insurance industry, right?
yeah, and I think that what's different here is no one, in fairness to these insurance companies, is no one knows what the potential long-term effect of this is. Reports coming out of Lloyd's, anywhere from 11 million if this is sort of cut off at 3 months. Then I think the next number was 32 million if it's cut off. What was it at 6 to 8 months, and then anything over a year or 2 years, or year and a half, they were saying 80 million, largest potential global loss after Hurricane Katrina.
You're talking dollars.
Yeah,
Billion,
yeah.
not million, billion.
Oh, billion. Yeah.
I was
I
like,
said
I
million.
was
Oh,
thinking
oops.
jobs, maybe.
Take all
Not
those
dollars.
numbers and put a B behind them. Yeah.
Yeah, put a B. Multiply by
Yeah.
1,000.
That is nuts. Those are huge
Yeah,
numbers. And so you're an insurer and you're saying we're not only seeing a decline in premium based on, like you said, Pete, people not doing what they used to do, but also now this $80 billion potential exposure hanging out there.
yeah. It,
Huge.
it's incredible, and things are going to get really goofy. I sometimes wonder about what we're going to learn in terms of real estate, and not what we occupy in the insurance industry, but what we don't occupy in the future. And our business is learning a little bit about how they can be a little more efficient in terms of long-term financial liabilities when it comes to office space and such. At our business, we had a chat today about how do we reopen and what do we do. And I can't wait to get back in my office. My home is not really set up in an ideal sense to work on things that maybe aren't my own personal work. When it's my company's work, the company I work for, I have a little harder time with it. But when it's my own work, it's fine. It's my environment. And I don't feel like I'm in my work environment here, even though I've been here for 7 weeks now.
Yeah. And you're in addition to productivity, you're also looking at this disruption of what was a rating process that was taking place within North America globally that now has been disrupted to delay the increases that were potentially needed to keep this industry on keel. And what's that going to do? In addition to, like you say, productivity being down, now you've got premium increases delayed potentially for the better part of a year.
Yeah, that's it. And or not, depending on some sectors. And are we really going to just see a extensioning of the hard market and severity of it? I think before this all began, there was the belief that we were going to see a little glimmer of hope come late Q3, maybe early Q4. And now we're starting to hear from people within the industry, particularly on some of the bigger um, entities in our industry, that, yeah, it might not be happening.
Hmm. And that requirement to get things rate adequate it puts pressure on the entire system, whether it be underwriters, brokers across through various sectors of the industry. So, yeah, that's tough news in amongst what's already not good times.
Yeah. Here's the other thing that's really interesting, I think, is that there's an article in Canadian Underwriter, speaking of not good times, that really actually spelled out a bit of doom and gloom for the broker agent distribution channel. Now, I don't have the article in front of me, so I can't recite exactly who wrote it and what it was, and I should, but it came out on yesterday, I believe, Sunday. And it really spoke about the idea that people are going to find different ways to not deal with the insurance broker and agent. And I find that hard to believe, because there's been a lot of entities that have taken shots at the insurance industry over many years. And it's still standing. It still controls the market share. It still controls distribution. And it still controls the fundamental way in which insurance works. There's no company that's come in and upended the concept of insurance, although many have tried. And I don't think you can count out the agents and brokers yet in this industry, but there's people who think any kind of pressure to change, any kind of pressure to change that comes along will spell the beginning of the nails in the coffin. And I don't think that's right.
It is, I guess, timely to see opinions coming out on the future of any industry. So, we sit back and speculate a premium base on, we just said earlier, commercial real estate, for example, and the amount of space that businesses are going to require. We're hearing about, large box stores, the effect this could have on them. So I think that, the article that was written is timely in the sense of what we as the general public reading things like this, in our case, the insurance industry, have a tendency to look at. So, yeah, I mean, clickbait. Does it sell? Does it sell advertising? Sure, I'm going to read it. I did. You did. Everybody chimed in on social media pretty quickly on it, so it worked. Whether there's 50% truth there, some would argue higher, some would argue lower. I guess for the brokers who haven't done much to get themselves into the era we're in as far as what the ways to communicate with consumers, whether it be digitally or, like you say, Pete, sort of a face-to-face or over-the-phone conversation. I have an opinion. I think there's going to be a challenge there for the ones that haven't done their best, put their best foot forward. I wouldn't completely agree with the article, but I would agree on points of the article.
Yeah, I mean, there's always points in there. I think it's just hard to draw conclusions, and that's where I sort of sit on this. And if you haven't put your best foot forward out, you're probably going to suffer. We all times of crisis is exactly when you need to be at your best, and those who haven't are going to pay for it probably.
Mm-hmm.
Speaking of clickbaity, though, if I were to sort of put a title on this episode of the Roundup, I'd say why you can never trust an insurer. So that's going to make enemies immediately, right? Like
man,
but why can you never trust an
we're
insurer?
selling clicks. Yeah,
Or
go
selling
for it.
clicks. Well, right now, there are many insurers who have completely and utterly dropped business interruption insurance from their packages right now. Whether it was included, whether it wasn't, they're gone. You can't even buy it. Even just if you're thinking non-pandemic, not there. Poof, gone. And
yeah,
so
we've seen
leave
that.
it.
We've seen that in other large loss scenarios,
And
right, across the
yeah,
country. Yeah.
okay, but let's put on our thinking caps. If you're not covering it for the pandemic stuff, which we know is highly likely other than in some select situations,
Right, jurisdictions maybe where
jurisdictions,
government, is
yeah,
jumping in. Yeah.
why would you take it off now for any new risk? Let's put on the tinfoil toque.
It looks like you're
I'm
guilty.
It looks like, yeah. I'm thinking the lawyers have gotten back into this and they want to redo all the wordings because now they're thinking about this in a different way, and there's no way they're going to sell more of this because people have been noticed it, because if you didn't have it before, you're probably buying it now, and they want to make sure those wordings are locked down.
Yeah, totally agree.
Right?
Yeah,
Like,
and who knew? Like most, didn't listen to the experts previous to this. So clearly, our industry was no different. I mean, a lot of very smart financial people out there didn't listen. So
yeah,
why would insurance be any different? Here we are,
yeah,
learning as we go. I guess it makes me feel better because I've often thought that some of these things should be very obvious after having spent the time I've spent around
yeah.
the world of insurance. And so it makes me feel pretty good when some of the real smarty pantses out there don't realize it either.
Yeah.
So,
I think the lesson learned to this is I remember a few weeks ago when the whole thing about Wimbledon canceling it and making a
yeah,
£100 million claim
cashed in.
came out, cashed in. And what someone said, well, they were smart. They thought about a pandemic. And I said, and this is on Twitter, and I think I did it on my personal account, not the podcast account. And I said, no, they actually didn't think about the pandemic. They thought about things that would prohibit people from coming en masse to a tennis tournament. So one of those things was, what if you have a pandemic? They weren't trying to isolate the pandemic. They were looking at risks differently. So they thought, how do you don't go and say, oh, I just want to insure against a pandemic. You don't come up with the idea of a pandemic. You come up with the thing that a pandemic causes you. What if
Right.
no one can come to my business, whatever that is, or let's say my event? Now you start going through what are things that could likely happen. You eventually, if you're smart, will arrive at pandemic. And sure enough, they did it. But that takes
Yeah.
interesting way of thinking with risk analysis. And I think we're going to have to see that soon.
And to your point, is it the back it in? Was it pandemic that they were chasing when they first started putting that policy together, or what? Or was it really they were chasing down? Because within various jurisdictions, there's things that come to mind quicker to other people depending on where you are in this world. And some jurisdictions have faced greater concerns around terrorism, greater concerns, or it'd be in a
Yeah.
jurisdiction that deals more with earthquake or
Yeah,
that deals with tsunamis.
exactly.
So you put yourself within those jurisdictions or geographical areas, and you're going to get different looks at insurance. And
Yeah.
fortunately for them, that look included pandemic. Wow.
Yeah, exactly.
And for for the brokers who put together the package for the Ontario Dental Association, which is the one we all talked about,
yeah.
even bravo to them to
Yeah.
see that. Hey, I got my hands in someone's mouth. There's a good chance if there's a germ in there, it's going to get me,
Yeah.
the dentist, sick. I probably got shut down, or my
E-
hygienist, right?
exactly. I think that's right now. That's the takeaway that I think everyone should be looking at is this pandemic gives us opportunity as risk managers, risk analysis, and as salespeople of insurance products to talk about risk differently. You now have the opportunity to have very frank conversations because it's fresh in everyone's mind. So you should be having them. You should be doing this with them and saying, what about this? What about this? All those hard to sell weird things that you think about, well, I can send them a form or they can click no on a website. No, those are times now where you need to start having meaningful conversations with people because they're paying attention about it. And again, this is going long, but I don't want to pick on the place, but Fort McMurray in Canada is now has a flood problem. How many places had flood insurance after the forest fire wiped out half the city? And again, that was an available coverage. They could buy that coverage. How many did? Not many, because the news reports coming out of there is that few and far between had flood insurance on as part of the risk coverage, and they're going to be left high and dry.
And they tie into Fort Mac and the BI coverage, uh, and the piece that relates to pandemic. In this case, what we see happening around coverage, and what we saw when we were first trying to bring flood coverage into Canada 10 years ago was a government private insurance
Yeah.
partnership. And everyone's probably read this article that's floating around about BI and including government in the solution. Uh, Pete and I were in a meeting with Morris Tulloch from Aviva,
Yep.
and that was the exact idea when it came to flood. Is
Yep.
it's too great to see it be taken on by any one insurer. Oddly enough, things changed in competition being what it is. Aviva chose, no, we're going to do this and we're going to take it on in Canada. For our listeners in North America, down in the States, may not apply. But
Yeah.
wow, here we go. Now all of a sudden, we're back talking about government and private insurers taking on a risk like a pandemic. Any different than flood? Not really.
Yeah.
Not
No,
really at
not at
all.
all. Like I
And
think,
maybe the mistake was that they took it all. Maybe
yeah.
maybe Fort Mac again is going to set this industry back, looking at the way it processes and manages large losses. Go figure. Why
Yeah.
Fort Mac?
Yeah. I know. What do they do to everyone? Feel bad. No one deserves that kind of bad luck.
No,
Oh
no.
well.
It's anyhow. That's
Anyhow, yeah, we could go down a political rabbit hole. We don't need to do that.
yeah.
So there you go.
That's the week.
That's the week. We're a day late, but not a dollar short. And we'll be back with more great content this week. Who are we releasing this week?
Sid.
Sid Rowe from Be Atomic. This is
It'll be
fun.
exciting.
This will be fun. We're kind of on a bit of a fun data run and stuff like that with some great guests. So Sid Rowe's coming out this week. So look forward to that one. All right. Thanks, everyone.
Have a good week.